the last little while, I've been having some conversations, not some great conversations, but some conversations nonetheless, with people online and people in real life about what Jesus did and didn't talk about. And of course, they always come up with the big ones, the Bible's opinion on abortion, the Bible's opinion on homosexuality, the Bible's opinion on gender identity. The Bible has no opinion on any of that. It's not mentioned. What is mentioned, however, is politics and economics. And if you listen to a bunch of people who want to just kind of obsess about hell and damnation and God hate and abortion and homosexuality and single parenthood and women and all that kind of stuff, they never talk about what's actually in the Bible. They just talk about the stuff they're annoyed with. What's in the Bible has a lot to do with economics. Jesus had a lot to say about greed, about not sharing resources, about allowing people to starve or be homeless or sick. The passage today is one of those things. It's the story of a man who essentially wants to keep it all, wants to have more and more and more. My kids and I used to call it stuffitis. This cultural sickness where we have to purchase more, own more, have more to keep up with someone else. I mean, I can remember it as a kid. We all can. It starts with wishes to Santa Claus to bring us all the wonderful new gadgets, whether we really want them or not. Doesn't matter. They're new, they're available, we want them. And society encourages us. In fact, capitalism is dependent on us wanting more and more and more. Jesus tells us a different message and a different story, and that some of that story is in today's gospel, where we first meet a couple of brothers who are complaining to Jesus, "Please, Master," and like, "You with authority, go tell my brother to treat me right. Give me a share of the inheritance." Now, we have no idea if it was a 50-50 split or there's other siblings involved or what was going on. But the Hebrew culture at the time had a very strong method of dividing inheritance. So was this a situation where the son who was complaining wasn't satisfied? Who knows? But it was the benchmark. It was the leap pad for Jesus telling the story of another man, of a rich man who had a full harvest and was so excited with all the wealth that meant. And so he decided, rather than sharing his bounty, that he would tear down his barns and build new barns so that he would have even more space to share all the crops and all the wealth he thought he was going to get. And then he dies that night. It's an apocryphal story, of course. There's no man, there's no dying, there's no actual human being. But the point is that greed got the better of him. There's a reason it's considered one of the seven deadlies. In fact, gluttony and greed are kind of the same thing. Gluttony has been reinterpreted to mean eating too much, but that's not it at all. Gluttony was having all this stuff and not sharing it, where greed is wanting all of this stuff. So they're very closely connected. Jesus was always trying to explain to people, this is not how you do life. This is not what matters. What matters is helping. What matters is giving from our abundance. If you are someone who is financially blessed, it is on you to share your blessings, not find new ways where you can spend it on yourself. Now, this does not mean putting yourself into poverty. There was never any expectation of that, but you probably are spending a lot more on luxury or on needs than you need to. I remember one time, not that long ago, I was sitting with someone and I was struggling financially. And she was sitting on the other end of my sofa going on and on and on about how she needed to have a vacation. She needed to have her husband take her to the Caribbean. She needed to get away for 2 weeks. And I'm sitting there, and she knows this, struggling to put food on the table for my children, struggling with how I'm going to pay some bills. No consciousness, no awareness of anything else around them. And that's what greed does. That's what gluttony does. That's what selfishness and stuffitis does. It makes you unaware of what's going on around you. It makes you completely desensitized to the people around you who might need something. And our society teaches that this is a good thing. That those who are poor could have made better choices. quite frankly, sometimes people who are poor don't have better choices. They make the best choice they can with what they've got. But that's not part of the capitalist message. And Jesus was very much not encouraging of people who wanted to hoard wealth. Now, while capitalism as a theory didn't exist at this point in time, the principles were there that the more you had, the more respect you were given in society, the more you were expected to buy and pay for, the more luxuries you were expected to have, the more you were expected to sponsor and fund others. Now, that's actually not so bad when the funding was an artist, but then the artist was owed their homage to the person who paid them. So were they really free, or were they just doing a whole lot of stuff to satisfy the person who was paying them to be artists? We've got to get over this kind of thing that if we don't have riches around us, life is going to fail. Because I can tell you, as someone who has had to depend on others, who has not had everything at my fingertips, who hasn't even had the career that I was supposed to have, because I stood up for myself and I stood up for others, it's okay. It is okay. There are people out there that are able to help. Now, I do not want to diminish those who do not have community and society around them. That's something else completely, and I am not talking about the homeless and the genuine societal poor and the underclass, okay? So that's not the conversation we're having. That's a whole other conversation. Jesus wanted them to be ministered to by us. And I'm talking about people who live in comfort, who can be uncomfortable. People who might not have the best, but they have enough. People who might have fancy dreams, but at the end of the day, those dreams really don't matter for having a good life. This is who Jesus was talking to with this parable. If you are hoarding and putting all of your attention and so much emphasis on earthly wealth, it can be taken away in a flash. It will not prevent your death. It will not prevent illness. It will not buy relationships. Sometimes it won't even buy the nourishment you need to have your body survive. Abundance that Jesus talked about is not wealth, not money, not stuff. It is an emotional abundance, a social abundance where we share from what we have to people who don't have as much, but that we feel better as human beings for being the givers, not the keepers, not the hoarders. Jesus spoke about this all the time. The rich man can't get to heaven if he doesn't get rid of his stuff. This is not hard, but it is hard in our society because it goes so completely countercultural to what we are told. Jesus was trying to teach those brothers, trying to teach his disciples, trying to teach them, us through them, that wealth is not going to make it better. In fact, you get into a cycle with wealth. You get to a point where you are so focused on maintaining it, feared of losing it, that you can't even enjoy it. I wrote and asked my kids one time to write an essay for me. They were children, so we were heavily influenced by Pinky and the Brain at the time. So I said, write an essay on what you would do to take over the world. And my oldest son, brilliant child that he is, came back to me, and his essay said, why would I bother? I would take over the world. Yeah, it'd be fun for a couple of days, and then I'd have to fight off others trying to do the same thing for the rest of my life. Why would I waste the time? That's kind of like wealth. Sure, it feels good when you've got it, the numbers in the bank account, the full house, the stuff that you've always dreamed about. But after a while, there's so much it loses value. Jesus told us that we can love God or we can love money, but we're not going to love both. The story tells us that no matter how much you hoard, things happen. In a flash, you could miss it all. In fact, the whole ridiculousness of the story, and Jesus was known for his hyperbole, was that he would have spent more money tearing down barns that he already had that worked just fine to build new, bigger ones. Like there was not even a common sense to how he was going about gleefully talking about holding on to his wealth. So all of this holds up a mirror for us. Are we people who are going to be so caught up in the keeping up with the Joneses, is what we used to call it when I was a kid, but the desire for stuff, the believing the capitalist machine that we have to have more and consume more and more? Or are we going to follow the guy who chose to be on the road for a good portion of the year, who chose to teach people that helping others was far more vital, far more life-giving than spending time in acquiring of wealth? We cut ourselves off from the joy of abundance of God's life when we focus on the physical abundance of the now, the physical excess, I guess. And we'll keep abundance with Jesus and excess for the common world. Jesus warned us about that, because the more we focus on that, the less we have. I have 4 kids. The youngest one is a complete minimalist. The only thing he really holds on to is the toys that he held dear as a child and anything that I made him as he was growing up. He's so bad that he actually was ready to throw out the instructions to the microwave at one point in time until his roommates said, his roommates are also his brothers, said, wait a minute, whoa, okay, we need to have that. But this kid is happy-go-lucky. He is out there enjoying life. He gets to clean his place in no time and move on and have life. He might be excessive, but he's got something. He understands that stuff gets in the way. And yeah, we can have sentimental things, but we don't have to have too many of them. We just need enough to remind us of the good, wonderful, imaginative times. And then move on. We have got to mark ourselves, because we live in a society that is constantly telling us messages that are not the messages from God. It's probably one of the reasons so many people who call themselves Christian, the pseudo-Christians, right-wing, Christian in quotations, however you want to play it, are so obsessed with things the Bible didn't say, because they really don't want to engage with the stuff that the Bible did say. And the Bible does say wealth is a problem. Greed is a problem. Excessive ownership is a problem. Stop doing that stuff. Decide how to best use the excess you have. Look for value other places than in barcodes and price tags. Not long ago, I was regularly visiting a house where this woman was theoretically living on benefits and retirement plans, but she was obsessed with all the stuff. She couldn't just tell me the story of one of her items. She had to tell me how much it cost or how much it would be worth at this day and age. She was so miserable. She was a truly, truly hate-filled woman who could not find joy in anything. Now, I don't know that the two are directly connected, but they're certainly linked. Jesus doesn't want us to be like that. God didn't make us like that. We were made for running around outside and loving each other and taking care of each other, not for counting how much our bank balance was. Have enough to live. Jesus never said give it all away. Give from your abundance, your excess. Look at the gifts of God that we are supposed to share with all people. Easy enough. So take a good look at your life, at your choices. Where can we learn from this story today? Where can we say, you know what? It's okay, we don't have to build more barns. We'll just give away the stuff that we don't actually have space for because someone else can use it. All of us, no matter how much we own or how much we want to own, should go through that process regularly. Jesus led us to it and asked us to do that through parable, through story, but it's still the request we make. To follow Jesus means to not get caught up in material wealth.